So, welcome to the Results Rules OK podcast. My name's Dave Holland. And what I attempt to do is find interesting people that I connect with or discover, or that connect with me or discover me, this type of thing. And I think this week, Karen, it's fair to say we've connected in a slightly unusual way, but I'll let you sort of explore that a little bit. But my guest today is Karen Lau. Welcome. Good to see you, Karen. Welcome to the conversation.
Well, thank you so much for having me today, David. I appreciate it.
It's a real pleasure. It was an unusual way, I think, that we connected through Facebook, wasn't it? I think through a connection and a comment and a conversation.
Exactly.
So it's,
but it's just great to meet people from all over the world. I think that's an awesome part of what we do as communicators. Try to find the moment to connect with others.
Absolutely. I think because we were just for everybody who's listening, where are you based? So they can sort of try and track you down on a map or something.
Yes, right now I'm in the United States. I'm in Florida, in Palm Beach County, in a small town called North Palm Beach. 3 minutes from the ocean, 79 degrees, very sunny.
Fantastic. It sounds fantastic. So, and this is middle of rural France. We're about 5 hours from the nearest beach here, I think. But anyway, it's equally beautiful. So anyway, so for the purpose of the conversation, so people may who are listening or watching this, they may not know you. So yeah, who's Karen? Just give a little bit of your background, what you do, and what your journey's been so far.
It took me some time to define who I was.
Okay.
But finally, I got a concept for myself, which really helped me. And I believe I'm a creator.
Okay.
From a great meal to a corporation. So because of the trajectory of my life, I can believe and prove to myself that I'm a creator. Mm-hmm. In other words, I've done things that have benefited myself, my family, socially, in my team. Mm-hmm. And that's what I call myself, a creator.
Okay. And so what led you to this point in terms of, arriving here and what you do now professionally? What's your journey? Where did what's your experiences? How did you arrive at this point?
It's too funny that you asked that question, because I've been writing down for a long time how I got here.
Right, yeah.
The first thing that comes to mind when I sat down trying to build that image of my trajectory as a person was a naked Barbie doll that I had when I was 7 years old. And my father was hired with Doctors Without Borders in a remote part of Latin America, and I had nothing to dress my doll with. So I found a box with a lot of ribbons, mm-hmm. and a needle and some thread, and I started sewing dresses for my Barbie. Then the other girls started wanting to imitate what I was doing, or getting those tiny dresses from me, and I was like 8 or 9 years old. Wow. Later on, I discovered that there were a lot of lemons around the place I lived. So I started making lemonade, but we didn't have plastic cups. We only had plastic bags. So I put lemonade in a bag and I started selling lemonade. Which it was part of my American background. When you are a kid and you lived in America, it's very common to sell lemonade. So I had that in mind, and I brought it to the place where I was living.
Right.
And from a very early age, I started doing negotiations and connecting with people. Later on, one of my uncles, we moved to a city, and my uncle moved close to us, and he brought with him a lot of gardening tools and lawnmower. And then I saw the opportunity to start mowing other people's lawn. And I was like 13, 14 years old. And it wasn't usual in Latin America to have a girl doing such a job. I again had my American background, being born in the States. really influenced my behavior as a kid.
Mm.
And I got married very, very early. I was 19 years old, and I had 3 kids. I started having kids when I was 20.
Wow.
And that also made a big difference in my life.
Sure.
Because when you have kids, then you have to have a lot of creativity to raise them.
Yeah.
I have my daughter. She's a doctor.
Wow.
She lives in Istanbul.
Mm-hmm.
And my 2 boys, we work and live in the same town here in the United States.
Fabulous.
So that was part of what also changed my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I took care of them for a while. Then when they went back to school, I decided to go back to school to get my college degree.
Right.
And it was right there that I met my mentor.
Okay.
It was a coach that came to do a presentation at school, and I was impressed with his presentation. And I approached him and I told him that I was interested in learning from him.
Yes.
Next thing I know is that I started working for him. And this is too funny because I approached, his name was Robert. And I said, Robert, I would like you to hire me, but you don't have to pay me. I just want to work for you. Okay. And he was impressed with that. And the thing is that the reason I asked him not to pay me was because I wanted to set some of the conditions.
Right.
And one was that I had to come to work after I would take my kids to school, and I had to leave work early because I had to pick them up.
Sure.
And he laughed, but he hired me, and I think it was worth it for both of us because we had a 17-year relationship.
Wow.
Since that moment.
Gosh.
So what happened was that we imported some training, and we started selling corporate training to different countries around the world. And I was the girl who would carry the suitcase for the coach, and I would set the screen and the audio and do the PowerPoint presentation for him.
Yeah.
And one very interesting thing is when you're passionate about what's happening around you, and you have that ability to observe and absorb.
Mm-hmm.
So while I was just carrying his suitcase, I also was learning everything he was doing.
Absolutely.
And prior to one very, very important presentation, he lost his voice. Right. Speakers usually are affected because they're talking all the time, but he lost his voice, and he was very worried that a large client was due the next day. He tried to contact a lot of his colleagues, but nobody was available. Right. So, in a very childish way, I left my hand and I said, I think I can cover you. I said, no, there's no way you can cover me. And I said, yes, I can.
Good for you. Good for you.
Opportunity will knock at our door, but we have to be ready for that. We have to love what we're doing.
Yes.
And that was the beginning of me as a public speaker, because he made me do this presentation in private. Mm-hmm. And I knew everything about the topic. I had been studying the topic. Yeah. I was ready for it. So I could cover for him with this very, very large client. And from that moment on, I started, doing small presentations as a speaker. Yeah. Yeah. And then he started mentoring me to be a consultant in 2 things: customer service and process management, which are my 2 strengths. Mm-hmm. Okay. So from that moment on, I started coaching small businesses. Yeah. And I started supporting him with the large clients that he had. Mm-hmm. And later on, I had to separate myself from my mentor.
Right.
And I decided that I was going to be a mother, but my clients started calling me. They wanted me back. And that's how my career as an independent coach started.
Wow.
I've been a coach for 22 years.
Yeah.
So that's quite some time.
Absolutely. Yeah. Good for you. So just out of interest, I mean, when you did that presentation to the big clients, the first one, how were you feeling? Were you nervous? Were you, in control, or what emotions were you going through when you were delivering that presentation?
I was so afraid that I wanted to die right there. I was sweating, I
Yep.
was shaking, but I was so passionate. I've seen myself in my mind so many times
Yeah.
standing up front that audience. I've seen myself before,
Mm-hmm.
that I was ready in my mind.
Yeah.
And that's how everything starts. Everything starts with a thought, with a vision of who we want to be.
Mm-hmm.
That was a big lesson for me, a lesson that I actually teach
Mm-hmm.
to the people that I work for.
Yeah.
And this is so obvious. Everything that is surrounding us, this computer through which we're communicating right now, it started as a thought.
Yes.
So a very powerful thing is to envision yourself.
Yes. Yeah.
With whom you want to be. That's the most powerful thing we can do. Start to envision who we are going to be in the future. Carry that with us. Dream about it.
I mean, we look at, because you're as a coach, and we're in a sort of similar field, to a degree, and work with businesses and owners, entrepreneurs, this sort of thing. And it's one of those things, and you're absolutely right. The first question I think we ask as coaches is, well, so what do you want? What's the future look like? What's the vision? What's this future image? And I find so many people don't have that. They sort of know what they don't want in life, but they don't know what they do want, and they focus on what they don't want, and guess what they get what they don't want. But this challenge of considering what life, or professional life, personal life, or otherwise, what it can look like, and building that very clear picture, color, sharp, bright image in their mind, they struggle with it. Is that something you find in the work that you do, that people, they have struggled with that to a certain extent, building this clarity of vision and image for themselves?
Yes, most definitely.
Yeah.
I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
And the reason is that we're centered in what other people would say. We're centered in other people's expectations. And once we're there, we're not within us.
Yes.
So we cannot discover ourselves because we're paying attention to what's outside.
Yeah.
We need to come back to ourselves. We need to center our attention in our inner self before we prepare to shine.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whatever we decide.
So looking at, and again, the work that you do, I think, looking at people's levels of success and achievement, what in your experience are the things that, the challenges that people face when it comes to becoming more successful, or achieving more, or whatever flavor of success they choose? What sort of challenges are common, do you think? What's the normal things that people they struggle with in the journey?
Well, the first one that I've noticed is the challenge they face with change. Change is a constant in our life.
Sure.
We shouldn't be afraid of change. We should be familiar with the fact that change is happening around us. But some people are looking for stability, and that's rare nowadays, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So the ability to manage change is critical. And another tool that I consider very important is the ability to bounce back.
Yes.
If you fall, or if you fail, you have to be conscious that you have to bounce back fast. Otherwise, your energy your self-esteem, your resources are going to be scattered.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
bouncing back in the ability to manage change. Some people ask me if fear was something that people that we will withhold people,
Yeah.
but fear is there,
Mm-hmm.
but we can carry fear with us. We can carry fear with us, and at
Yeah.
the same time progress through our journey.
Yes.
And I think that fear is good. Once you're
Absolutely.
too confident, your level of alertness goes down, and then you become less careful. So
Yes.
fear is good.
Yeah. But I think, but fear can be a fuel, can't it? A motivator. It drives us and keeps us, I think, sharp. The reason for the question about your first presentation, because I remember as a young manager I was in a packaging company donkeys years ago, and we had an opportunity come through for a representative of our company to do a presentation, 3-hour presentation to a big society of environmental engineers, I think it was, in London. And this thing came through. I went to see my boss. Now I thought he was going to do the presentation, and he just said, "Well, I'm not doing it. You're doing it." And I was absolutely petrified, absolutely petrified. But like yourself, I practiced. I did my notes, and this is before PowerPoint. This is when we used to have acetates on a screen, used to peel off by hand. Anyway, so I did this presentation, and I was so nervous. It went really well. The feedback was great. They loved it. They rebooked us and all this sort of thing. And what it taught me was, I think it's probably a lesson, a pattern, was that a little bit of fear or nerves is a good thing. It keeps us sharp. We don't go complacent. We don't take things for granted. So I think we've got to be, in the pick up on your point as well, we've got to be okay with fear. It's okay. It's a good thing. We do sometimes our best work when we're under pressure, and we've got to be okay with that as well.
Exactly. So we agree on that.
Yes.
Things changed in my life afterwards. I went through a divorce that
Mm-hmm.
made me make decisions, strong decisions. So I decided, I made some research, and I decided that I wanted to come to this state instead of California, which was the place where I was born.
Okay.
So I decided to come to Florida, and nobody would recognize Karen Lau as a coach.
Right.
So I applied for different jobs, but I was very specific on what I was looking for, and I got hired as an executive assistant at one of the largest automobile dealership in the state.
Wow.
Which was a blessing in disguise,
Yeah.
because I've learned a lot of the culture, a lot of the tax management processes, a
Yeah.
lot of business management, local business management. And one day, my son comes to me, and this is the first time school pays off.
Right.
My 2 boys are engineers, and my daughter is a doctor. So there's a lot of money invested in my kids.
Exactly. Yes.
So my boy comes to me and he says, Mom, he was getting his master's degree at Kansas University.
Yeah.
And he says, they just share with me that there's a lot of money in waste management. And I said, what are you talking about? What type of waste management? And he said, portable toilets. And I asked, show me the numbers. I want to see what you're talking about. And he did. He showed me the numbers, and my eyes went. I opened my eyes this big, and I got this big smile on my face. And I said, "You're gonna be kidding me!" And no, the numbers were right.
Wow.
So 7 years ago, due to the fact that my son was right with that information, we started a waste management company that has been extremely successful.
Wow.
So it was a combination of the coaching that I've learned, the experience that I had with process management, the concept that my son brought in. What I've learned through when you teach, the first thing that happens to you is that you learn.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So we established our waste management corporation, and then to that, a real estate company followed. So our it's everything under Firemind Corporation.
Yeah.
So it's waste management and real estate and coaching.
And this all
That's
started with
how
a
things.
conversation with your son, with a sort of an idea or some observations around numbers. So wow, his education did pay off, didn't it? Then it's all worthwhile.
Oh yeah, yeah. So I love the fact that my two kids allowed me to coach them. That
Yes.
was the greatest moment in my life, when you have credibility with your own.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was a highlight in my life, when they allowed me to direct the project that we had, and it's been 7 years of amazing success.
Wow, fantastic! Congratulations. This is great news. Have you seen any particular, downturn or dip through the COVID restrictions or this lockdown at all? Has that affected the business, or has it been quite resilient for you?
Actually, it was extraordinary, and this is something that it's related to change
Hmm.
also.
Yeah.
When COVID happened, of course, waste management was in sanitation, which is another area of us that another service we provide.
Hmm.
Um, we provide sanitation, and we provide portable restrooms
Yeah.
and luxury trailers. So when COVID hit, everybody was afraid, and we go back to fear to provide this
Yeah.
type of service. Nobody wanted to approach any site.
Right.
And I had a conversation with my crew, which I love. I love
Hmm.
my people. And we discussed the fact that nobody wanted to do the job, the dirty job. And um, what we did is, myself and my two boys,
Yeah.
we put the gloves on. We went out to the field with our crew, just to show them that we were pretty safe with the measurements, the safety measurements that
Yeah.
we'd taken.
Yeah.
So work that nobody wanted was given to us,
Uh-huh.
just because we were daring to be out there.
Right. Okay.
uh, we,
Okay.
we were afraid, but we were taking the correct measurements, the
Sure.
correct safety measurements. So our waste management and sanitation company really did good with this
Fabulous. But again,
COVID.
it's taking this, what could be a challenge in the business environment, and turning it into an opportunity. This is the sort of change, fear, the other things that drive us along as well. So no, good for you. Well done. That's great. Good news story. A good news story.
And
So,
then
sorry, go on. Yeah.
no, that I just want to motivate our audience
Yeah.
not to encapsulate themselves in a concept.
Yeah.
I'm a coach, but that doesn't mean that I cannot do other things.
Hmm.
So when things, sometimes we have this image of ourselves that it's not flexible,
Hmm.
and we're rigid regarding change.
Yeah.
Going back to this topic that we've been discussing,
Sure.
uh, once you are who you are, you can be in different roles and just manage yourself to perform up to that level of high performance that you have. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to be in this precise field that you've chosen.
Absolutely.
You have to be flexible.
Yeah. I remember as a kid, having some careers advice, and the advice I was given was to, get a trade, and then go and find a job, work in the same company for 40 years, then you retire, and then you die. And it didn't make sense to me even back then. It sounded crazy. And I think this, as you said, people looking for safety, security, and certainty in life and business and career, it doesn't work. It's just not available anymore. But I think it's a very good point that you make, that consistency that we do have it's ourselves, isn't it? It's our spirit, our ability, our personality, our standards and values. Well, we can take that anywhere we want to go. That does stay fixed for us, though, doesn't it?
You said it so well that that's exactly the concept that I want to share with our
Yeah.
audience. You have to know who you are, and you have to know your level of expertise and your talent.
Yeah.
Once you're confident of that, you can perform in different places.
Yeah.
I've been establishing businesses for myself and for other people in different countries.
Yeah.
And it's a secret I want to share is about processes. Like in nature, a seed a seed has a specific process that she knows she has to go through.
Yeah.
And there are specific requirements for that seed to go through the process of transformation. And if you are aware of the elements that cause transformation and of the beginning and the different steps and the end of the process, you can be fruitful wherever you go and wherever you are.
Yes. Yeah, it's a great point. Again, I think, from a coaching perspective, I'm sure you see this a lot, when people have that ability to have the certainty, the process that you talk about, the nurturing, the process and creativity, they can turn the hand to all sorts of things. But as you've done, from making Barbie dresses out of ribbon through to lemonade in a bag, through to a sanitation business, it's the same person that's created all this, isn't it? It's you, and you've turned your talents to different things, and that, I think, is partially a definition of success and resilience. I think because if anybody's got one particular skill and they stay at it, but the job evaporates, they crash and burn. But being able to adapt like that is certainly a key skill, I think.
Exactly. So if you notice my trajectory, you can see my coaching blossoming in everything that I've done.
Absolutely. Yeah.
One of your questions was, what is it that, let me see. I wanted to talk about that question. What is it that I enjoy the most?
Yeah.
And that is coaching my team.
Right.
The
Okay.
people who work with me.
Yeah.
That's something that I'm passionate about it. I just love to see people thrive. I love to see them coming to us, and even if they leave, they're no longer part of our team, but they leave on a different level. They're better than when they arrive. I feel passionate about watching that transformation.
Absolutely.
So
that's a reward, isn't it? I think this coaching approach, the coaching style, if you like, that I think a lot of people talk about it and they don't actually implement it. They still go down the management route of KPIs and numbers and all this sort of thing. Whereas when it's a coaching approach, which clearly is working for you, the difference is transformational, isn't it? From people, they grow and develop and build as a company grows as well.
Exactly. And even if they leave, it's better that they leave with a higher level of performance than having people that never has been transformed.
Absolutely.
In your working environment.
But the thing, the phrase is, I think, if they, people say, if you train people, you grow people. What happens if they leave? Well, the converse of that, of course, if you don't grow them and develop them, what happens if they stay? then you're worse off. It's just, and you're stuck with each other. Then you cannot care.
You have to pay a very high price for people that are not educated in the working environment, that are not trained.
Yeah. So how many people are in your team, your crew now that you work alongside? How many people do you have?
Well, we only have 12 full-time people. Okay. 12, but then we have to hire temporary people. When we have large events, we had to just hire people temporarily.
Right. Okay. So it's sort of flexible, as it has to be, I guess, as it has to be. Yes. So again, I know we looked at these sort of question discussions as we go along. Is there something that I should have asked you that I haven't? Do you think? Is there any area that I haven't explored that you'd like to share with the audience at all?
Well, I guess. If you ask me what inspires me, people that know me, that know me very close, my close friends, they think that I'm very enthusiastic,
Okay.
and I guess they're right. But
I think so.
I'm very passionate, and that I'm very passionate about my kids in
Hmm.
first place. You know,
Yeah.
I had them from being babies to who they are now,
Yeah.
and I love the fact that they're a work in progress. They're not perfect, but they're very, very good. And I see that as part of my as a result, as
Yeah.
I bear that as a person. And then uh people inspire me.
Hmm.
I love to see people. I love to connect with people. I
Yeah.
love to learn from people. So
Hmm.
I guess my kids and just people in general inspire
That's the
me.
inspirational side. Absolutely. I think it is interesting what inspires us to do what we do, and for everybody as well. And recently, about 3 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, nearly 4 weeks ago, we became grandparents. So we've got two boys, and Richard, our youngest, over in the UK, and his wife Polly, they've had their first child. And because we can't get there, we can't get to the UK because of all the restrictions, this sort of thing. But it was quite interesting because, like yourself, it's a privilege to be a dad and a father and all this sort of thing. So the two boys grow up, but now we're grandparents as well. It's like crikey, the cycle is starting again, almost. But that in itself is a huge privilege, a sort of stage of journey in life as well. And I never thought, not never thought, but it's one of those things you think when you're, and anybody listening to this, I guess, you go through life and career and you hear people becoming grandparents and you think instantly they are old and ancient and over the hill and retired and no use to anybody. And of course, I'm there now, not over the hill, but I'm now a grandparent. And I still feel, and I'm sure I sense for you as well, I still feel about 30 years old. I haven't aged. It's just, but did you
Good.
feel the same? Do you have that sort of energy? It hasn't changed in the last few years for you either?
I, I feel ageless.
Yeah, exactly. It's a thing.
And
Absolutely right.
I feel that my soul is really ageless,
Yeah,
and I feel a lot of joy, and I really enjoy my life. But the
absolutely.
best part is the word legacy.
Yeah,
Legacy. What is it that I'm leaving behind?
yeah, yeah,
That's a big question we need to ask ourselves.
indeed.
What is it that I'm leaving behind?
Yeah,
And as parents, we go to work and we spend 80% of our time at work, and then we come back and we're so tired and we're so done that we don't want to invest any energy.
yeah,
The greatest legacy as parents is to leave behind people that are good,
yeah,
that are efficient,
yeah.
that are trustworthy,
Hmm.
that are that have principles and values.
Yeah.
And we're benefiting ourselves,
Hmm.
and we're benefiting society with that. So
Absolutely.
that's been my challenge also.
I think,
I've
I
been
think,
tough with my kids. I've been very tough with my
yeah,
boys.
good, good. Me too. They'll thank us for it. But it is interesting. It is great to see the boys, your children, imagine, grow up. It's interesting when Polly was having the baby, and Richard was able to be present while the baby was born, she's great. And I can remember being there when he was born. I can remember it as if it was yesterday. And he's 27 years old, and it's like, my goodness. I don't think life goes quickly, but when you look at it in big slices like that, from the birth of a child to birth of a grandchild, it's as if it was just the blink of an eye, and now he's having the same experiences as I was having, and he's going to be a great dad, or a better dad than I was, perhaps, all this sort of thing. Who knows? But it is this legacy. It's very interesting as parents to see the children outstrip us and start to live their lives as well.
And that term, it's critical because you can also be transferred to our working environment.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, and that goes back to who you are.
Hmm.
People won't take from you your words. They
Yeah,
will take from you your actions and your
yeah,
lifestyle.
absolutely.
So going back to that concept of developing ourselves, being self-aware of who we are, and being conscious of our limitations and not being afraid of them, but noticing our strengths and enjoying them. Do not be apologetical of who you are. Somebody would
Absolutely.
say that I was a very bold woman, a very strong woman, a lot of things woman. And the point in my life came where I didn't feel sorry for who I was.
Absolutely
I
not.
felt I felt proud of
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah.
And you cannot please everybody,
No,
and you have to enjoy the journey with who you are.
absolutely.
That will
Absolutely.
bring a lot of comfort and happiness.
Yeah. And being, I think, as you say, being comfortable with who you are, who I am, who we are as individuals as well, and finding people that allow us to flourish like that. And maybe that involves moving away from some people as well sometimes, that's okay as well.
It is okay. It
Yeah.
is okay to separate yourself from messages that will limit
Yeah.
your development.
Yeah.
It
Absolutely.
is a necessity.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a final question for me, if you like, and one that's not on my list, but is there a favorite book or some material you'd recommend to people that you've maybe read or come across in on your journey so far that you'd like to recommend to people watching this will be helpful for them?
Yes. Just recently, I discovered Joe Dispenza with his book Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself.
Yeah.
Was transformational for me.
Yeah.
The minute we stop thinking about the past and we start living the present,
Yep.
and when we believe that we're creators, and then we consider ourselves ahead of our time, everything starts changing. There's a realm that we cannot see, but that is there. And he uses a phrase, um, where your mind goes, your energy flows.
Yeah.
So if we're setting our mind in the conflict and COVID and all the negative things that are happening, we cannot move mentally
Sure.
to our future.
Yeah.
So that's the book that I got in January 2020. It came just on time to face all these that we went through.
Wow. Fabulous. So Joe Dispenza, fabulous. Good choice. Thank you. And so, I mean, people listening to this, I mean, first of all, for me, it's been a joy and a pleasure speaking with you. I know we only connected probably a week ago, something like that. But it's been there were no surprises. I think we knew what we were going to find when we spoke to each other, I think, which was absolutely fine. So thank you for being my guest. It's been a real pleasure. For those people listening to this that may want to connect or contact or reach out to you, how can you be contacted? What's the best way of getting in touch with you?
Well, like you did, I think Facebook is the easiest way.
Yep.
But also my email, it's very, very easy. It's
Okay.
Karen at KarenLau.com. And my last name spells L as in love, A as in apple, U as in universe. So Karen at KarenLau.com.
Karen at KarenLau.com. Fabulous. So anybody listening to this or watching this, please contact Karen. At least say thank you for her time participating in this. And this is the highlight of what I do, is speaking to people like you, Karen, because it energizes me as well. It's great to compare, sort of kindred spirits as well. So it's fabulous. Thank you.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much for this invitation.
Oh, it's a pleasure. It's a real pleasure. So for everybody listening, I'll be back in probably about a week's time. I've got to try and find a guest as equally exciting, as interesting as Karen, of course, now as well. That's my challenge for the week now, but we'll see what happens. Thank you for listening. Thank you for participating. Karen, thank you again. We're connected now anyway. I'm sure we'll correspond again. So have a great week, and I'll see you next week on the podcast. And thank you, and bye for now.
Bye for now.